Do you suffer from over-hinging your wrists in the golf swing, causing you to have loss of control of your golf ball and wayward shots every single time you play? Well, if that's you, stick around and watch this video. We're going to talk about the pitfalls of overusing the wrists and some practical drills you can implement immediately to try to help you overcome this problem. So let's discuss what overuse or excessive hinging of the wrist looks like and why it can be so problematic for so many of you. In this video, I'm going to use the Hack Motion wrist sensor on my lead wrist to show what that looks like. And we're going to really talk about two main areas of the swing where excessive wrist motion can certainly be a problem and something I see on quite common occurrence. So the first one would be in the takeaway, how you move the club in the initial backswing. That first movement is so critical in terms of setting the tone for the entire swing. What I see when done incorrectly, golfers utilizing their wrist and their arms too much to just pull this club up and away from the ground, and we can immediately start to see the wrists breaking down in a swing like that. We also see that in conjunction with very little body turn. So the golfer's not really utilizing the big joints of their body, and they're getting the movement of the club from the wrists and the arms. That's going to lead to some significant issues and inconsistencies. Once those arms start breaking down, you struggle with contact consistency, and associated with poor arm structure is always bad wrist angles, typically leading to the club face getting too open. So learning to do the takeaway with correct wrist hinge or correct wrist motion would be a great place to start. One of the things that we want is to have a sensation that the club, the wrists, the arms and the body are moving more together, more connected if you like. And a great way to feel that would be just to stick the club up into your tummy and just use that initial movement of the swing where you have to turn your body to keep the club, the butt end of the golf club here, touching your tummy or your stomach, still in position. If I was to just use my wrists to move the club away, you'll see how I'd be able to pull this club and the grip of this club away from my shirt and away from my tummy without moving my body. So I've got the club to move, but I haven't moved my body. That would be incorrect. What we'd be looking for here is more connection between the body and the arms. Once you've done that a few times, you start to get a sensation of how that works. Generally, you'll need to utilize more of your lower body. The knees will change flex, which will help the hips to turn. These are all good things, so that as you move back, we're really keeping that connection. At this point in time, the wrist movement is much more stable. We haven't overused the wrists at all. So this is a nice feeling where we've almost got this width or this extension of our arm still, and the wrists are really in the right spot at this time. And without doubt, the second most common time the wrists get overused is at the top of the swing. And this, I think, stems from people's desire to swing further, to try and hit the ball further. So it's really about lengthening the swing, but not really knowing how to lengthen the swing in the most effective, efficient way. That would be through making sure we're utilizing the body parts correctly. But some golfers don't know how to do that, and they'll just literally let the wrists go past this parallel position. The club will get too long, and essentially what's really important about this is this lead wrist works into too much extension, and this extension is opening the club face, and it's the open club face that actually makes you hit less distance with a longer swing than you think you should. It doesn't make sense, right? You're making the swing longer. Why doesn't the ball go further? Well, it's inefficient because the club face is getting open. Let me show you what I mean by that. We'll use the Hack Motion data here, and we'll take a look at this live avatar, whereas I take my setup, I've got 15 degrees of extension. There's 19 now, 19 degrees of extension. When I get to the top in a good swing, this would be my standard backswing wrist condition, I've got 11 degrees of flex. That means this wrist has moved into a slightly flexed condition, which puts this club face into a really nice, strong, powerful position at the top. You'll also notice that as I do that, the club doesn't reach parallel, okay? It hasn't got all the way to parallel with the ground. And that's okay, that's absolutely fine. You'll see this demonstrated by many good golfers. There's a little bit of flex in the wrist. Now, if I take that 5 degrees of flexion in my wrist, which is good, which is supporting this club and keeping the club face strong, if I let the wrist over flex and move it into extension, you see there's 58 degrees of extension there, 60, 61 degrees. That club's gone past parallel. I've got a longer swing, but as I swing down now, I've got a completely non-effective, completely inefficient club face position that I've got to do a hell of a lot of work to recover from. So I've made my swing longer thinking I'm going to hit the ball further, but nothing could be further from the truth. That club face has got itself into a position that you just are not going to be able to control. You require so much timing and coordination to get that club back in any sort of functional way. And of course, at the driving range, hitting a bucket of balls, maybe you'll manage to do that a few times. But once you get yourself out on the golf course under that one ball pressure and those one ball conditions, it's almost impossible to make that swing work. Again, once the arms and the wrists break down, the radius management of the swing is completely out of play. You've got the arms bent, you're going to top the ball, you're going to see this chicken wing. Quick question for you. Did you know that 80% of your golf ball's direction comes from the club face angle at impact? And it's your wrists that control that angle. If you want to hit straighter shots and add more distance to your game, then check out the link in the description below. This will hopefully help you to start to understand why players like Jon Rahm, who have what looks like an exceedingly short backswing, are able to hit the ball a very long way. This backswing might be somewhat typical of Jon Rahm's, very short. Look how much flex is in my lead wrist. There's 20 degrees of flex. That's even more than I had in my swing when I reached the top. So if you're looking to control your wrist angles, which really is the subject of this video and trying to help you remove the excessive nature of your wrist angles, you have to feel like you move the wrist in a very particular way. The lead wrist wants to feel like it moves into flexion, which is a turning down motion, and at the same time feel like you're pointing your thumbs away from you. Rather than letting the wrists hinge, you see how the thumbs are pointing towards my face here. This wrist is in 59 degrees again of extension. If I took my thumbs and pushed them away from me back towards the camera, you'll see how that obviously changes the wrist angles and significantly changes the orientation of this club. I've gone from 60 degrees of extension to 18, 19 degrees of flexion there. Now, this isn't really where you're going to hit the ball from. This isn't quite what the end of your swing is going to look like when you eventually hit the ball, but that will be the feel. That will be the feel as you swing back, keeping the thumbs pointing back towards the camera. Very often when I'm using this exercise with a student, I'll tell them that it will feel like no wrists at all. A swing which has absolutely zero wrist hinge. Now again, that's not really what happens, but the feel that you may need to take with you to your swing if you're someone who uses your wrists too excessively is one of zero wrists. So I'm going to swing back here, keeping the thumbs, in my mind at least, pointing back towards the camera. What you'll see in reality is this swing will go further because I'm making a full swing and a pass at the ball here. I will make a longer swing, but it won't be excessively long like it would have been if you struggle with these excessive wrist movements. So, connected takeaway. This is also the same feel in the takeaway drill. Thumbs pointing back towards the camera. Keep the thumbs pointing back and go ahead and hit one. That came off the club very nicely. That feel is also going to be very much one that helps you to draw the ball. I'm normally a strong drawer of the golf ball in my normal swing, so when I do that exercise, it tends to close the face a little too much for me, hence the reason why that one's curved a bit more to the left than I would generally want it to on the golf course. But that feeling of keeping the wrists almost completely out of the swing, and even beyond that, the extension of that would be feeling like you push the wrists and the thumbs back towards the camera, will help you to create this flexed condition in the lead wrist that everybody who struggles with excessive wrist motion is going to find helpful. That's the piece that you're getting wrong if you're trying to use your wrists too much to create power. There's no doubt the wrists are vital when it comes to creating power in the golf swing, but they can also be your nemesis. Get the wrist movement wrong and you'll find yourself chasing that golf ball left, right and all over once you get to the golf course. Learn the correct wrist motion and you'll unlock a level of consistency and a level of power that you never knew was possible. So take that feeling with you next time you go to the driving range. Hit balls with the thumbs pointing back towards the camera and see how that helps your ball striking. If you enjoyed the video today, you can click on the link down in the description of this video that will take you to further wrist training videos I've made for Hack Motion.